General Hospital, July 17th episode. Layers of betrayal, hidden truths, and shocking encounters in a day marked by secrets, suspicion, and irreversible choices. Port Charles found itself at the crossroads of past sins and emerging truths. The storylines that had once simmered in the background surged to the forefront, pushing several characters into emotional and moral chaos. From private confessions to public confrontations, everything unfolded with the intensity of a long brewing storm ready to consume everything in its path. Sasha boarded a private charter with Jason, leaving behind the safety of the familiar. The flight was meant to be routine, a simple escape from the chaos on the ground, but the altitude brought clarity neither of them expected. Seated across from the stoic man who had saved lives but buried his own desires for years, Sasha found herself peeling away Jason's layers. She didn't confront him directly about his pain, but her soft-spoken reflections mirrored his unspoken truths. As they cruised through the clouds, she asked questions not about danger or allies or tactics, but about peace, fulfillment, and the cost of sacrificing everything for others. Jason, usually so measured and impassive, said little, but something shifted within him. Her words echoed in his silence, a subtle push toward acknowledging his own right to happiness. What neither of them expected was what awaited them at their destination, a striking woman bearing an uncanny resemblance to Brit. Sasha noticed her first, frozen in the terminal, her eyes darting nervously. Jason's expression, typically unreadable, cracked for just a moment. Whether it was grief, disbelief, or something deeper, even Sasha couldn't tell. What was certain was this stranger's arrival would disrupt Jason's tenuous emotional balance. Back in Port Charles, Sonny had finally reached the limits of his patience. The media had been relentless, smearing his name with allegations that felt both familiar and surgical in their precision. He cornered Curtis, demanding the truth. Curtis, calm but clearly under pressure, reminded Sonny of a long-standing rule in their world. Everyone has a secret, and leverage is the currency that matters. Though Curtis didn't admit outright to leaking anything, his evasiveness suggested guilt. Worse still, Curtis had begun to wield Nina's betrayal like a weapon, threatening to expose her secret affair with Drew unless she cooperated with his broader plans. Nina, already fractured by the weight of past mistakes, began to crack further. What had once seemed like a necessary deception now became a threat to everything she built. As the storm gathered around Nina, Anna remained relentless in her pursuit of truth. Felicia entered her office, urgently imploring her to walk away from her latest investigation, fearing that it would cost Anna more than she realized. But Anna had already committed. Her instincts told her something was wrong with Vaughn, the enigmatic man who had embedded himself so quietly into Jocelyn's orbit. With connections pointing to the WSB, Anna began to see a larger pattern, one that involved not just espionage but manipulation of those closest to her. Vaughn wasn't just investigating, he was recruiting, exploiting Jocelyn's role as a research assistant to Professor Dalton. What troubled Anna more, however, was the possibility that Jocelyn wasn't merely a pawn. There were signs, whispers and gaps in surveillance footage, that hinted she may have been working for the WSB all along. If true, this meant the stakes were higher than anyone imagined. Anna's suspicions hardened into theories, and the pieces of the puzzle began aligning in a way that was both terrifying and clarifying. At Port Charles University, Professor Dalton's lab became an unlikely battlefield. Jocelyn, caught between loyalty and survival, realized someone had been trying to access the lab's classified data. Whether Vaughn or another player, the breach was real, and Emma, innocent and curious, had wandered too close. Jocelyn had to act quickly, subtly redirecting Emma before she stumbled into something dangerous. With pressure mounting, Jocelyn's ability to balance her dual roles as student and operative began to crumble. Elsewhere, family tensions escalated as Dante and Lulu clashed over the emotional well-being of their son, Rocco. Dante's growing connection with Brooke Lynn was a sore point for Lulu, especially after Rocco's increasingly erratic behavior. Lulu reminded Dante that his first responsibility was to their son, not to a new relationship layered with political undertones. She urged him to consider how Gio had been spiraling ever since Rocco's trauma surfaced, and warned that Dante's perceived neglect could cost him both children. Rocco, meanwhile, sought answers in his own way. He had arranged to meet Liesl, someone he barely knew but sensed might hold the answers no one else dared to give. When she arrived, finding the boy dressed formally and brimming with nervous energy, she was moved. His questions were pointed, mature beyond his years. Why had things turned out this way? Why was there so much secrecy? Liesl, guarded by nature, surprised herself by offering gentle honesty. She didn't give him everything, but what she did offer gave Rocco more clarity than anyone else had. As this played out, Dante's confrontation with Lulu deepened. The issue wasn't just Brooke Lynn or custody or grief, it was about trust. Lulu insisted Dante's indecision had bred uncertainty in Gio, who needed stability more than anything. Her words hit their mark. Dante realized he had been so focused on solving external problems that he'd ignored the emotional wreckage at home. Meanwhile, back at Curtis's club, a more dangerous negotiation was brewing. Sonny, cornered by mounting pressure, had to choose between pride and strategy. Someone was threatening Marco's life, and Curtis hinted that the only way out was for Sonny to either sacrifice his public standing or let Marco be taken. Sonny, always calculating, began to consider leaving town, just long enough to reset the board. And finally, Nina faced the full consequences of a betrayal she never expected. Drew had remained quiet for weeks, but now, armed with knowledge of her affair and Curtis's manipulations, he began to strike back. What began as a romantic slip had become a power struggle with no clear exit. Nina was being outflanked on every side, and Drew, once her confidant, was now her most dangerous enemy. In the shadows of these converging storms, Anna, Sasha, Jason, and even Rocco moved like pieces on a chessboard none of them controlled. Each thought they understood the game. Each believed they had time to act. But beneath their feet, the foundations of their world continued to shift. By nightfall, no one in Port Charles would be able to say they hadn't been warned. The past was no longer buried. It was rising, hungry, and unstoppable. And for some, the reckoning had only just begun.